Coach, good afternoon. How you doing today, sir?
Good, Mookie. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. How was the flight back home?
That was good. A lot of guys sleeping, a lot of guys watching film. So it was a combination of both, I guess.
Yes, sir. Yes, so 0 blitzes, 4 turnovers. The D-line complimented the back end, especially on third down. How important was it to pay attention to detail while playing with a physical demeanor yesterday?
Yeah, the physical part was a big emphasis for us during the week. Our defensive staff, Leslie Frazier, and the rest of the defensive coach did a great job of coming up with a great game plan, and the players executed at a high level.
Absolutely, man. And on the flip side, how well did Josh manage that game yesterday, and how clutch was that fourth quarter drive?
Yeah, I thought we hit some chunks down the field, got behind the defense a few times there. Coach Dable did a good job of queuing those up, and then that last drive was big, and Josh did a great job. Didn't do it by himself, of course, but he made some just special plays on that drive that kept it going and then to put it in the end zone.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, Coach. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Hi, Coach. Adam Bonini. I was reading Peter King this morning. He's our guest tonight on our show, so I kind of almost asked this for his benefit. But, and this speaks to the magnitude of the win and all the outside noise. Called it and said it felt like a bigger than Week 5 game, a changing of the guard in the AFC is what he described it as from the outside. I guess internally, describe maybe, the flight back, your players' reaction to it, and maybe the perspective you might lend a day after a win like that for the franchise.
Yeah, I think perspective's big, and I think our couple of our players mentioned it after the game there, Adam. It's Week 5, and certainly things are going to be said about that win, and we recognize those. At the same time, that we have to dial back in and get ourselves ready to go for another big test on the road on national television this week against a team that beat us last year. So the flight was was rather quiet. Honestly, it was, as you know, it got late, and guys were tired, so they were trying to get some much needed rest.
How well does this team maintain that level of focus that you're referring to as compared to maybe some others you've been with?
I think it's always a challenge in the NFL to, hit the reset button, detach from what just happened the previous week, and then move forward into the new week with a growth mindset. That's always a challenge with all the noise that comes, from you guys outside the building from time to time. But it takes leadership. I'm not talking about coach leadership. I'm talking about player-driven leadership, and we've got good leadership in our locker room, and I'm counting on those guys this week.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, John Warrow, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you, John.
Oh, okay, good. Just wondering, after the inconsistencies on defense last year, what do you see in this unit that has been playing, forcing takeaways, limiting opponents in the red zone? How much better is this defense right now playing? And based on what you envisioned, with the additions you made this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, each season's different. Each defense is different. Each team's different. So I would just say that we're coming together as a defense. I think we continue to find out a little bit more each week of who we are, and the different options we have available to us. In terms of active, inactive guys every week, and I love the fact that guys have been very unselfish in their approach, and yet competitive week to week to try and make the active roster for game day.
And just also on the defense, you didn't have Starr last year, and after all season, but especially against Tennessee. How much more? How big of a factor does he play in how the defense is playing against the run this year, and especially looking ahead to facing Derrick Henry, who's doing what Derrick Henry does?
Yeah, Derrick is playing at a high level, probably if not the best, one of the best backs in the league. And so we go from one challenge to another challenge this week, and playing at their place in front of their fans. So it'll be a big test for us. You're right.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, I know it's not the playoffs or the Super Bowl or anything like that, but what is it like to see your team get a win like that? And looking back at the end of last season, when you and Brandon both said on your end of the season Zoom calls that, the Chiefs are the gold standard in the conference, and you guys were going to do everything you could to beat this team. And that was a big emphasis to improve your pass rush. Just maybe taking a step back, just what is it like to see that come to fruition, even though I know it's not the postseason or anything like that?
Yeah, I think, Heather, more than anything, it's a step, right, in the right direction. They're a good football team. We're trying to continue to grow and become a good football team, and to see the contributions that were made from everyone, in particular, a couple of the young players in that game that are new to our team this year, right, that we acquired via the draft, as you mentioned, is a good sign. Doesn't mean we're where we need to be, right? But it is a good sign at this early stage of the season.
And specifically, I feel like, we feel like we ask you about him every week, but that's just because of how well he's playing. How big of a step was that to see how Greg Rousseau played in that game?
Yeah, that he made the big splash play. I thought he had some other good plays in there, and the thing I love about Greg is he comes in hungry every week to work and improve, and that's how he's wired. And I think that's for the most part how our team is wired, and that again is driven by our leaders.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, Jackson Roberts with News 10 NBC in Rochester. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you.
Obviously, you guys have so many offensive weapons, but what do you think has allowed Josh and Dawson to connect so well over these last few games?
They've known each other now for a few years, right? And they've worked together, and I think just time on task. Dawson's playing very confident football right now, which is great to see. And I think Rob Boris, his coach, and Dawson have a close relationship that has allowed Dawson to continue to grow. Now in year 3 now? Yeah, year 3. So I've been very pleased with how Dawson has been playing, and can't wait to watch him continue to grow through the rest of the season. Sure.
Hey, Sean, it's Jay with the Buffalo News. How you doing?
Good, Jay.
How much sleep did you get?
I came into the office from the airplane. That's what
Not
we do,
surprised.
right? That's what we do.
Yeah, not surprised. With Cole Beasley's usage, his snap numbers were a little bit lower than what we're accustomed to. Was that strictly game plan related, or health, or anything else related?
Yeah, just game plan related more than anything. We've got a lot of confidence in Cole across the building here. So he's really appreciate the way he's handled that. I mean, it's not easy, right? When you go a week or two with not getting the ball a lot, but it says a lot about who he is and his unselfish nature.
And then with Matt, how did he come through pregame? Matt Milano, that is, pregame warmups. Was it close? And what went into that decision? And would you still be classifying him as day-to-day right now?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't have a lot of the information on all the injuries. Matt's situation, we'll see how it goes this week, Jay. It was really about, it's hard enough to lose a player of Matt's caliber for one game. Didn't want it to be 2 or 3 if we pushed him through this past game. So we just felt like it was a smarter option for us, and that's what we went with.
Thanks, Sean. Get some rest.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Hi, Sean. Nick Fierro from SI.com. I want to ask about Greg Rousseau, and I know you spoke about him before, and you expect him to be a pass rusher right away, but he's been really good against the run. Did you Did you see this coming this quickly in his career with him being such a good all-around player?
All right, so can we just hold our horses a little bit here, Nick? These guys are rookies, and I mean, yeah, he made some really good plays. I don't want to take that away from him, and those plays made a big difference in the outcome of the game. But there's still so much to be had yet in terms of his growth and development and physical play and all those things. So respectfully, if we could just kind of slow our roll here, I guess they say, right? Just we got a lot of work to do with these young guys, including our entire football team. But these young guys got to learn that it's a week-to-week league, and when you think you've arrived, you haven't. And so Greg, I know, embraces that in terms of his approach every week, which is refreshing and very welcomed here at the Bills.
What about a more experienced guy like Ed Oliver? And I don't want to get you in trouble here, but what do you say to a guy like him? After a penalty like that, what might not have been a penalty, you want him to stay aggressive, but yet somehow avoid being able to break his momentum.
Yeah, those are tough ones. I mean, those can go either way, and but you hope over the course of the game those even out, and at the end of the day, you want an aggressive player, and you've got to be able to reset at the same time. You're going to get some aggressive penalties from time to time, and so having that tool in your toolbox to be able to reset during the course of the game is critical, and I thought Ed did that.
All right, thanks, Sean. I'll hold off on putting Rousseau in the hall.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Hi, Sean. I remember talking to Brandon in the offseason shortly after the AFC title game, and he said, Leslie was, in there watching the tape, trying to, figure things out. I mean, when you lose like that, you want to try to figure it out. How important is his demeanor in the room as the head coach? Watching him over the course of the last 4 years, how much do players respond to not only his competitiveness in his demeanor, but the way that he approaches it every week with the guys?
And you're referring to Leslie, right?
Yeah, Leslie Frazier, sorry.
Yeah, he's incredible in his consistent, call it graceful demeanor. And I mean that. It's I guess a word that's not always used in the football industry here, but he's just got an unbelievable poise about him, and he's the veteran leader on our staff from that standpoint, and he and I have been through a lot together, and I really count on him for a lot in what he gives us here on our football team. And you see coaches that are yellers and screamers, and then you see coaches like Leslie Frazier, who's a teacher and cares about the players, cares about his coaches on the staff, and he's a great listener as well. So just so many great qualities that Leslie has that I wish I had sometimes more of them, right? So I think we're all better being around Leslie Frazier on a daily basis.
You mentioned, that hunger, that mindset coming in and maintaining that. I think one of the things that you could say about, your team is that consistently, I mean, it's an approach by a lot of guys. One guy that embodies it, Saran Neal, makes a huge play on special teams the other day. And we've talked about trying to find other roles for him, right? To get him on the field, but he maintains that hunger in really where he excels the most. How much of a teaching opportunity is that for other players? Just his attitude.
Yeah, it's team first. Saran is, as you mentioned, he's a hungry guy. Comes every week, kind of chip on his shoulder type approach with me against the world, which has made him who he is. And I think he did a phenomenal job last night balancing special teams and defense, which is hard to do, and in particular when you're playing up against a good player like Kelsey some of the night.